Well, that was a great episode. The episode that broke the internet. I'm John Stark from MacMovieGuy.com, and this is my review slash recap of The Last of Us, Season 1, Episode 3. I'm a blind film critic, so I watched this with audio description on HBO MAX. And obviously spoilers. So, yeah. If you haven't seen this episode and you don't want to be spoiled, I don't really know why you're clicking on recaps. I've never really understood that, but I still put spoiler warnings because I'm like, what else is a recap for? Critics usually just don't review episodes without revealing info. It's always a recap. So this episode, if you've been watching my first two videos, I've acknowledged the fact that this series is excellent. I'm there. I get it. This series is phenomenal. It's doing a great job of giving everyone life, and giving the world. I saw this thing trending all over my social media. Like, all my friends were like, "Oh my god, this was so sad." I didn't know that a zombie show could make me cry. And I was like, man, dude, you need to watch some episodes of Walking Dead at least and see whether or not, Look at the Flowers or something will make you cry. But yeah, so yeah, it's a great episode. It's like, I don't know, it's one of the best episodes of television I think I've seen in the past year, easily. It stands out. It will probably always stand out. It's weird to have it in the third episode. I will acknowledge that. It's weird for this to be that good in the third episode, and to have this moment in the third episode, because it feels like the kind of thing that you would have later on, because we're still kind of establishing our main characters and their journey and their purpose and what they're doing. And I guess it's really uninteresting to watch two people walk around, which is one of the things I've talked about, is there are two people in this show. And that is what the video game is a guy who has to save a girl. And that's it. That's the video game. It's not a collective group. It's not like The Walking Dead, where a whole bunch of characters came in and out the whole time and ran with Rick Grimes, and then one of them died, and then they ran into more, and they got new ones. You couldn't play as anybody else but Pedro Pascal's character and I will remember her name. I'm gonna call her Birdie because that's what she wanted, was Catherine called Birdie. She sounds totally different when she doesn't have that accent, and it's throwing me off, like, a lot. I'm like, I can kind of hear it, but, yeah, so when those two are not on camera, it becomes a little bit like, okay, so what else? What else is there? What else are we doing? They're still world building, so they can do things like go show us a pit full of skeletons, and be like, okay, well, this is the past and this is what happened, and Pedro kind of explains the actual what happened, like what they've surmised after 20 years that caused this fungus. So he answered that question. So what's going to happen in episode 4? We have to see some forward motion. He's got a truck. He's got supplies. He's going somewhere. He's already told us what happened. We've already established that the government sucks, both through him, through Anna Torv's rest in peace, and through now these two lovely men, who are fantastic actors, Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett. I did not know what to expect with this episode. I have no idea if this is canon for the video game or not. I can't imagine that it went this into detail. If there's a cutscene that's an hour long that goes into their entire relationship, that has them like making out and and talking about having sex in bed, and that's in the middle of the Last of Us video game, and people were playing it. Cool. I just don't see that happening. I think maybe there was like an offhand reference to the characters, and this is like their much more developed backstory, if they're in the game at all. I'm not looking that up. I'm not bothering. I don't need to, because I don't need to be invested in characters that don't exist anymore. They're already dead. Unfortunately, this was the story of the two people that we were supposed to be sent to, who were already dead, and their love story, and how two people meet in apocalypse and fall in love, and have this sort of back and forth in this marriage. And first of all, I was like, Nick Offerman's character was badass. I was like, oh, I was like, if we could just keep him. I didn't know where the episode was going, but if you think about like if you watch this at the very top of the episode, or if you do watch this, think about Nick Offerman's character and think about how absolutely fucking useful he would be if you could roll with him. Like, he's the character in the video game that you want to like adopt and bring with you. You're like, yes, bring him, take him, like, add him to my crew, please. I mean, he makes every smart choice right at the top of the apocalypse, and I mean, his whole thing is bare. He builds like a fence around his city, and he booby traps, and he's got like different kinds of booby traps. He's got generators, and he's got like, he knows how to store things. As we see 20 years later, he's got like batteries in a refrigerator. So it is so he would be so useful to have in the long term. It's so soul crushing to think that man existed for one episode in a zombie survival. That is the guy that survives the zombie apocalypse. A lot of people talk about like, oh, Daryl Dixon does a great job. It's like, no, this dude knows how to survive a zombie. This dude wrote the book on surviving the zombie apocalypse. He's got a bunker with cameras. He's got like 1,000 guns, and he goes like straight to Home Depot. And just raids the shit out of Home Depot. He gets gas, and then he goes to Home Depot. So yeah, it was Bill was just over the top. But yeah, his love story with Fred was great, and Murray added a different flavor to the episode, and tied it all in and brought it all together. And I was kind of thinking to myself, I was like, I know Murray only appears in limited series. I don't think he's tied to an actual show. Nick keeps getting tied to shows, and there's a thing where everybody wants to use Nick Offerman, but he can never be kept in a show. Like how A League of Their Own was like, oh my god, we have Nick Offerman, and oh my god, he's gone after the first 3 episodes. It's just, that's kind of what happens with Nick Offerman nowadays, is that people talk about how they have Nick Offerman, but they don't really have Nick Offerman. So he was somebody that even when his casting was announced, plus knowing the structure of this series, I was like, I feel like Nick Offerman's not going to be a long-term casting decision. But I really didn't expect this to be one episode. I really didn't expect them to just do one episode with Nick Offerman. So, this is a fantastic episode. It'd be a great standalone episode, by the way, even if you've never watched the show. This is just, I would say just jump in. Like, if you're like, oh, I don't want to go back and watch the first, I mean, the first 2 episodes were good, and they explained some things, but this is also not a bad starting point. Pretty soon it will be, but this is not a terrible starting point if you didn't watch the first 2. You would miss a lot of zombie action, but the episode is so focused on these 2 people's stories that it doesn't really go too much into anything else. So, and there's enough backstory because it does show when Pedro Pascal and Anna Torv show up and visit the facility, visit their compound, whatever, their little mini village, Disney World, whatever. They've got like a store. They've got like they keep together like a store. Anyway, so yeah, it's a great episode. So the episode wise, yes, I'm all about it. First 3 episodes of the show have been great. I still have a longevity problem with the show, and they need to fix it before the end of the season. If this season ends and there's only 2 people in the show, we're going to have a problem, and the show is not going to last very long. I'm telling you this because there are no stakes. If your 2 lead characters can't die and everyone else does die, then there's that gets really boring. Like if you cannot become emotionally attached to anybody for longer than an episode, watching people die over and over and getting highlighted, even if they did something like this and it was well written, after a while you're gonna think about the main story and think, what am I watching? I'm just watching people die, like over and over and over in flashback stories. It's just not something that has a long-term prospect. It's sort of like Westworld had a great idea. They were like, oh my God, theme park, robots, androids, right? And then, season 1 was killer, season 2 was less killer, but it was fine. They had kind of crammed everything into season 1. They didn't really need season 2, but they felt like they needed to wrap up the concept. But then they started expanding into, areas maybe they shouldn't. They were like, ooh, what if there were other parks? Yes, what if there was? And then the 3rd season was, what if there were no parks? And the androids were just walking around. And the ratings went down precipitously. And then suddenly, in the 4th episode, they were like, what if there was a park? But they were still... And nobody cared. And then the show got canceled. So, yeah, you have to think about what your concept is. And you can lose people real fast. You can be a big hit right at the beginning. And if you don't figure out where you're going with it, your audience will just precipitously slide away. So, I really encourage the producers and showrunners of The Last of Us to show us that somebody can last longer than 2 episodes. Because right now, Anna Torv is the longest survivor who's not one of the 2 leads. And she made it for 2 episodes. So I'm not counting this episode because she was dead. It was a flashback. So we need a character. They need to pick somebody up in this next episode. And they need to run with them for the rest of the season. So that's that. I'm going to give The Last of Us Season 1, Episode 3, an A. I wonder how long I'm going to be giving that show an A. I think I could probably put up with this concept for a little while longer. I don't see it going into a Season 3 or 4 with just the 2 of them. Just the 2 of us. So that's it for me. Thanks for subscribing. If you're not a subscriber, why not? I mean, honestly, why not? That's a challenge. Challenging you. Anyway, I also have a website, MacMovieGuy.com. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MacMovieGuy. And you can go to the audio description project, abp.acb.org. To let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to theadna.org and you can look up your favorite TV shows and movies and see who's narrating and working on the audio description for them. That's it for me today. I will see you guys on the other side.